I'm going to introduce our next speaker now, who's Jane Baptiste, and she is the Assistant Head of Sustainability at the Crown Estate. And she's going to talk about their involvement in the whole social value space and total contribution, how they can make a positive impact. So I'd like to welcome to the stage now, Jane.
Thank you very much. Well, I wouldn't be standing here today if it wasn't for George III. He owned a lot of land, but he didn't have the latest rent collection software. Instead, he was having to send in the bailiffs with accompanied hardware. And his bank balance was a bit thin. So one day in 1760, he had a bright idea. And he went to Parliament. He said, look, I tell you what, you can take all of the land that I have, hold it in trust for the nation, you collect the rent and the revenues, give it to the Treasury every year, do with it what you want. In return, give me an annual sum to live on. And thus the sovereign grant was born, and the Crown Estate as we know it today. So last year, we contributed 253 million to the Treasury, and that came from our £8.6 billion property business. We're an independent company set up under Act. And we are governed currently by the Crown Estate Act 1961, and we've been charged with maintaining and enhancing the value of the estate and the revenues from it, but with due regard to good estate management, which in our terms is long-term estate management. All right, too fast with the clicker. So this is just a quick pictorial representation of the Crown Estate and the different activities that go on across the estate, from our urban portfolios to the Windsor portfolio, the rural and coastal, and the offshore renewables. We have 12 nautical miles out to sea. The seabed, we own the seabed, 12 nautical miles out to sea. And you'll see going through that picture, there's a pathway, and at the beginning we have our three core values: commercialism, integrity, and stewardship. And a little horrible arch with a horrible heart with sustainability. We are building sustainability into the way we do everything. We've torn up our sustainability strategy, not that it wasn't any good, but we're trying to embed it into the business. And we are trying to think in an integrated way, and last year we published our first integrated report, which looks at how we create and sustain value. The question is, how do you measure that? Our total contribution. We have a report that we published last year called Our Contribution, which looks at what we do and what our impact is economically, socially, and environmentally across everything, across our whole of the Crown Estate. I'm having trouble with the clicker. How do we measure this? So we're looking at the value across economically, socially, and environmentally, but also we've split it another three ways. First of all, we're looking at our direct impact. What do we do directly, our own activities? We're looking at our indirect impact, what we commission, but actually is carried out within the supply chain, and what we enable. So the activities of our customers, of our tenants across the whole estate. And unfortunately, this comes up with rather a bad acronym, DIE. Oh, sorry. Okay, so when we look at measurement, economically, that's fairly straightforward. You know, we have the figures, and we have one interesting finding as a result of our looking at valuing our place economically across all of the enabled and indirect and everything. £5,233 million gross value added, and that's the turnover minus the cost of goods and services that was contributed to the UK economy. So that's fairly simple. Environmentally, also, if you've got the base figures, that's fairly simple I say simple, actually, it was very difficult, but in theory, if you've got all the accurate figures, that's fairly simple to calculate as well. And one of the interesting findings there was that we were net positive on carbon. When we looked at our total emissions across the whole of the Crown Estate, they were a lot less than what we avoided, the emissions we avoided through offshore renewables, generation of renewable energy, and also through sequestration of the forestry. So we came out in a good position there. And you will notice, as we go throughout the figures that are presented, we have split them down into direct, indirect, and enabled, because we want to be very transparent about what we're doing, and we want people to see where the big figures are. We can't take credit for them all the time, because they're not ours necessarily. And also we're trying to show in all of our figures the net contribution, not just a positive, but we're trying to show the negative. This has been very difficult in some places, and we need to do a lot more work on that. Socially, right, I keep missing slides. Socially, now then, there are no silver bullets here that I have to offer, not even a bronze one. We know that we have an impact on well-being, health and well-being, on education, on inspiring young people, on placemaking in very many different ways. But we don't have the facts and figures to prove it. We know that our impact has meant that we are considered now a trustworthy organisation, a trustworthy landlord, a good organisation to do business with. But finding the facts and figures to prove it has been very difficult, and we don't make any bones about that. So what we're doing, we're looking for corporate indicators across the Crown Estate, and in this total contribution report, we've actually had to reflect what we're doing through case studies, because we have places like Windsor which have, there are lots of social impacts, lots of people come there, do lots of different activities, and we've shown this in case studies, but we're looking for a couple of corporate indicators so that we can actually reflect across the Crown Estate what we are doing and what the impact we have. And so what we're doing at the moment, we've been in intense discussion for a couple of months about developing a robust framework for this. And we're getting a good framework together. But what it comes back to with social impact is that you cannot, you have to go to the people and get their input, the people that you are having an impact upon. You can't make the figures up. And also, it's a long-term issue. You're not going to get results straight away with the economic and the environmental. You can look over the past year, look at the data, use the models and assumptions that you may have used for the enabled, but you cannot on the social. You need to do some sort of survey or something, and that's what we're struggling with, but we are determined to continue with this, because we can see it has great value for us, and it actually affects people's lives. So what? Has our report made a difference? Yes, it has. I shall now put on my glasses. Sustainability for us is a pair of glasses. And it means when you look through them, you don't just see your decision in terms of the financial bottom line, but you see environmental implications, social implications, you see the connectivity between them, you see the dependencies. And for our business, we have found that this report, along with other initiatives, but this report has helped us to look at decisions differently and to make decisions looking more broadly across the environmental and the social as well. We also have made we have made a difference. Oh dear, sorry, this thing's really sticky. Right, we have a plan going forward. Oops, no, we don't. Well, we do have a plan, but it's not as simple as it looks with a simple checklist like that. We have got to definitely Looking back at this report and looking over past year's data, we have got to be more accurate in our data collection and in the scope of the data. It's no good using models and assumptions for your enabled impact for your customers if you don't really know exactly what crop is grown in a field and how big that field is. So there's all this basic stuff that we've got to improve over a number of areas, and we're going to do that. This was just a first start. This was a stab, and this is highlighted where we need to improve. We also need to come up with a biodiversity indicator, which was mentioned after we put the report together. And we're currently working on valuing ecosystem services on our Windsor estate and up at Glenlivet in Scotland. And this will add some robustness to our methodology, and it will come up with some impact. As I say, we're going to really concentrate on social and try and get to the bottom of that, and at least come up with a couple of core indicators across the estate, but also, I think we will also use case studies. What it has shown is that the total contribution is not only a tool to measure and manage our impact, but we are aiming for positive impact in 2022. That's our vision. The total contribution will also be a means of proving that we're making a positive impact. Thank you.